The maintenance bay of the Stellar Confederation's flagship Asterisk Dominion hummed with the quiet efficiency of automated systems. Commander Elena Vasquez stood before the massive exosuit cradle, her dark eyes scanning the readouts that flickered across multiple holographic displays. The suit hanging before her was a marvel of alien engineering, sleek and imposing, its silver-blue surface rippling with embedded nanotechnology that responded to the slightest movement of air in the chamber. "Still can't believe they assigned a human to test the Cathurian prototype," muttered Chief Engineer Raxton from behind his console. The Centaurian's 4 arms worked in perfect coordination, adjusting settings with practiced efficiency. His species had been working with advanced technology for millennia, and the skepticism in his voice carried the weight of evolutionary superiority. Elena ignored the comment, though her jaw tightened imperceptibly. She had heard variations of the same sentiment from half the crew since receiving her assignment 3 weeks ago. The Cathurian exosuit represented the pinnacle of personal combat technology in known space, a piece of equipment so advanced that even the proud Zenthari warriors had failed to successfully interface with its systems. "Dr. Chen, are the biometric sensors calibrated?" Elena asked, turning to the slight woman hunched over a nearby workstation. Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her instruments, pushing wire-rimmed glasses up her nose. "All green across the board, Commander, though I have to say the Cathurians designed this suit for beings with significantly different neural pathways than humans. The interface requirements are challenging." Elena nodded, stepping closer to the suit. At close range, she could see the intricate patterns etched into its surface, not mere decoration, but functional elements that would channel energy and information throughout the system. The Cathurians were master biotechnologists, and their equipment reflected that expertise. This particular suit had been acquired through a complex diplomatic exchange, with the understanding that whoever could successfully operate it would gain insights into Cathurian military capabilities. "The previous test subjects experienced severe neural feedback," Dr. Chen continued, her voice carrying a note of concern. "The Altarian volunteer suffered temporary paralysis, and the vegan pilot lost consciousness within minutes of activation." "But no permanent damage," Elena observed. "No, but—" "Then we proceed as planned." Elena began removing her standard-issue uniform jacket, revealing the close-fitting bodysuit underneath, designed to interface with the exosuit's internal systems. "The Confederation didn't assign me to this project to play it safe." Chief Raxton's secondary arms paused in their work. "Commander, with respect, humans have only been part of the Confederation for 50 years. Your species lacks the technological sophistication of races that have been spacefaring for millennia. Perhaps it would be wiser to—" "To what?" Elena's voice carried the quiet authority that had made her one of the youngest commanders in Confederation history. "To assume that because we're the newest members, we're somehow inferior." The maintenance bay fell silent except for the ambient hum of machinery. Elena had faced this attitude countless times since humanity joined the galactic community. Earth's rapid technological advancement had been impressive by human standards, but to species that had mastered faster-than-light travel when humans were still discovering agriculture, humanity seemed primitive and unpredictable. "The Cathurians specifically requested a human test subject," Dr. Chen interjected, breaking the tension. "Their communication mentioned something about humans possessing unique adaptive flexibility in neural patterns." Elena smiled grimly. Diplomatic language for what other species often called human recklessness and unpredictability. What they saw as chaos, humans often viewed as creativity and adaptability, traits that had served them well in their rapid ascension to spacefaring status. "Begin pre-synchronization protocols," Elena commanded, stepping onto the platform that would position her within the suit. The Cathurian exosuit stood nearly 9 feet tall, its humanoid shape deceptively familiar despite the alien technology integrated into every surface. As Elena approached, sensors built into the platform began scanning her biological signatures, feeding data to the suit's adaptive systems. "Biometric lock established," Dr. Chen announced. "Neural pattern mapping in progress. Elena, you should start feeling a slight tingling sensation as the suit begins to interface with your nervous system." The sensation was more than slight. Elena felt a subtle electric current flowing through the specialized contacts in her bodysuit, creating connections with nerve clusters along her spine and at the base of her skull. It was unlike anything she had experienced, even during training with the most advanced human military equipment. Heart rate elevated but within acceptable parameters, Dr. Chen continued. Neural activity showing unusual patterns. The suit appears to be actively adapting to Alina's brainwave signatures rather than imposing its own interface protocols. This was unexpected. Previous test subjects had reported feeling overwhelmed by alien thought patterns bleeding through the neural link. The suit's artificial intelligence was supposedly designed to work with Cathurian brain structures, creating a partnership between pilot and machine that enhanced both participants' capabilities. Fascinating, Chief Raxton muttered, his skepticism beginning to give way to professional interest. The suit's adaptive matrix is reconfiguring itself in real time. I've never seen anything like this. Alina felt the platform begin to rise, lifting her toward the open chest cavity of the exo-suit. The internal space was lined with what looked like living tissue, another example of Cathurian biotechnology that blurred the line between organic and artificial systems. Alina, I'm reading some unusual energy signatures, Dr. Chen called out, concern creeping into her voice. The suit's power core is showing increased activity. Are you experiencing any discomfort? Negative, Alina replied, though the truth was more complex. She wasn't experiencing discomfort exactly, but there was definitely something happening. The tingling sensation had spread throughout her body, and she could almost sense the vast potential of the machine before her. It felt less like putting on equipment and more like preparing to merge with a living entity. Initiating contact protocols, she announced, reaching out to place her hands on the internal interface nodes. The moment her palms touched the biometallic surface, the world exploded into sensation. Alina felt her consciousness expand exponentially as the suit systems came online, flooding her awareness with information streams she barely understood. For a terrifying instant, she felt herself dissolving into the machine's vast digital consciousness. Then something extraordinary happened. Instead of being overwhelmed by the alien intelligence, Alina felt her own mental patterns asserting themselves. Her human consciousness wasn't being subsumed. It was taking control, reshaping the suit's responses to match her own neural architecture. Incredible, Dr. Chen whispered, watching her readings. Alina, the suit isn't just adapting to you, you're actually rewriting its base programming. This shouldn't be possible. Alina stepped fully into the suit's interior, feeling the organic lining mold itself to her body. Systems that had remained dormant for previous test subjects suddenly blazed to life, responding to mental commands she hadn't even consciously formed. All systems showing green, Chief Raxton announced, his four arms dancing across control panels as he tried to keep up with the flood of new data. Power efficiency at 97%, higher than anything we've recorded. Commander, how do you feel? Alina flexed the suit's massive fingers, marveling at the perfect responsiveness. She felt incredibly powerful, but also surprisingly comfortable. The Cathurian technology wasn't fighting her human instincts, it was enhancing them. I feel, she began, then paused as the suit's sensory systems came fully online. Suddenly she could perceive the entire maintenance bay in exquisite detail, from the thermal patterns of every person present to the electromagnetic signatures of each piece of equipment. I feel like I was meant to wear this. Neural integration at 94%, Dr. Chen reported, amazement clear in her voice. Alina, you're achieving better synchronization than the suit's original Cathurian operators. According to these readings, the machine is treating you as its primary user. Alina took a step forward, then another. The exosuit moved with fluid grace, each motion perfectly translating her intentions into mechanical reality. She had trained on dozens of different armor systems throughout her military career, but this felt entirely different. Instead of wearing a machine, she felt like she had become one. Weapons systems online, Chief Raxton announced. Defensive fields at maximum capacity. Commander, I'm reading capabilities that weren't even in the technical specifications. The suit is unlocking functions that have been dormant since we acquired it. Alina raised the suit's right arm, watching as energy patterns flowed beneath the surface of the armor. She could sense multiple weapon configurations available at her mental command, from precision energy beams to devastating area effect weapons that could level entire buildings. The Cathurians built this for war, she realized, her voice carrying a new harmonic resonance from the suit's vocal processors. Not just personal protection, this is designed to turn a single operator into a one-person army. And it appears to have found its ideal operator, Dr. Chen observed. Elena, your brain patterns are actually stabilizing the suit's quantum processing matrix. It's as if human neural chaos provides exactly the kind of random input the system needs to achieve optimal performance. Elena began walking around the maintenance bay, each step perfectly balanced despite the suit's massive size. Other crew members stopped their work to stare as she moved past, their expressions ranging from amazement to concern. She represented something unprecedented, a human successfully mastering technology that had defeated some of the most advanced species in the galaxy. "Run a full diagnostic," Elena commanded, her enhanced senses picking up subtle vibrations in the ship's hull that indicated they were preparing to drop out of faster-than-light travel. "I want to know exactly what this suit is capable of." "Already in progress," Chief Raxton replied, his skepticism now completely replaced by fascination. "Commander, according to these readings, you're not just operating the suit, you're improving it. The system is learning from your neural patterns and optimizing its own performance." Elena nodded, feeling the truth of that statement in her bones. The suit wasn't just responding to her commands, it was anticipating them, sometimes acting on intentions she hadn't yet consciously formed. It was an unsettling sensation, but also incredibly empowering. "Incoming transmission from the bridge," Dr. Chen announced. "Captain Martinez wants to see the test results." "Tell him he'll have them soon," Elena replied, then paused as new information flowed through the suit's communication systems. "Actually, inform the captain that we're about to arrive at the Kepler station. The suit's sensors are detecting the station's identification beacon." Chief Raxton checked his instruments, then looked up in surprise. "That's correct, Commander, but we shouldn't be able to detect the station for another 6 minutes. How did you?" "The suit has passive sensors I'm still discovering," Elena explained. "Its detection range is far beyond anything in the technical documentation." As if responding to her words, the exosuit's displays suddenly filled with detailed information about Kepler Station, structural analysis, personnel counts, defensive capabilities, and potential threat assessments. Elena realized she was seeing the station through the eyes of a weapons system designed for planetary assault. "This is incredible technology," she murmured, then focused on Dr. Chen. "How long until we dock?" "Approximately 10 minutes, based on current approach vector." Elena nodded, then began the process of disengaging from the suit systems. It was surprisingly difficult, not because the machine was fighting her, but because disconnecting felt like deliberately limiting herself. After experiencing the enhanced awareness and capabilities the suit provided, returning to baseline human senses felt like voluntary blindness. "Neural disengagement proceeding normally," Dr. Chen reported. "Elena, I'm not seeing any of the feedback trauma that affected previous test subjects. Your patterns are returning to baseline without any adverse effects." Elena stepped out of the suit's interior, immediately missing the expanded awareness she had briefly possessed. The maintenance bay seemed smaller somehow, less detailed and vibrant than it had appeared through the suit's enhanced senses. "Preliminary assessment?" Chief Raxton asked, his professional demeanor not quite masking his curiosity. "The suit works," Elena replied simply, though both she and everyone present understood that was a massive understatement. "Better than works, it's as if it were designed for human operators." "But that's impossible," Dr. Chen protested. "The Cathurians developed this technology millennia before they even knew humans existed." Elena looked back at the now dormant exosuit, its surface having returned to its neutral silver-blue coloration. Something about the successful integration bothered her, though she couldn't quite identify what. The Cathurians were known for their incredibly advanced biotechnology, but they were also known for their extreme isolation. They rarely shared technology with other species, and when they did, it came with strings attached. "Dr. Chen, I want you to analyze every aspect of that integration," Elena ordered. "Something about this feels too convenient. The Cathurians don't give gifts without expecting something in return." "You think this might be some kind of trap?" "I think we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with before we declare this a success," Elena replied, though privately she hoped her suspicions were wrong. The potential applications of the technology were staggering. Properly equipped with Cathurian exosuits, human forces could potentially challenge any threat in known space. Commander Vasquez to the bridge, the ship's communication system announced. Priority message from Confederation Command. Alina nodded to her team and headed for the exit, but paused at the doorway to look back at the exosuit one more time. Despite her concerns about Cathurian motives, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just experienced something that would change everything, not just for her, but for humanity's place in the galactic community. What she didn't yet understand was that her successful integration with the Cathurian technology had already been detected by monitoring systems scattered throughout Confederation space. In hidden facilities and secret communications networks, ancient plans were beginning to activate. The test had been a success, but it was also the beginning of something much larger and more dangerous than anyone aboard the Asterisk Dominion could imagine. Commander Alina Vasquez entered the bridge of the Asterisk Dominion to find Captain Martinez in heated discussion with Admiral Chen over the holographic communication array. The older woman's image flickered slightly as the ship's systems compensated for quantum interference from their recent faster-than-light jump. "The implications are staggering, Captain," Admiral Chen was saying, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had spent decades navigating Confederation politics. "A human successfully interfacing with Cathurian military technology? This changes everything." Captain Martinez, a veteran officer whose calm demeanor had served him well through 20 years of deep space operations, noticed Alina's arrival and gestured for her to join the conversation. "Commander Vasquez, Admiral Chen has some questions about your test with the exo-suit." Alina approached the communication array, noting the subtle tension in both officers' postures. "Admiral, the test exceeded all expectations. The suit responded to human neural patterns far better than anticipated." Admiral Chen studied Alina with sharp eyes that had evaluated countless officers throughout her career. "Commander, I need you to understand something. 3 hours ago, we received priority communications from both the Zenthari Military Council and the Altarian Science Directorate. They're demanding immediate access to all test data." "Demanding?" Alina raised an eyebrow. The Zenthari were proud warriors who rarely demanded anything from their Confederation allies, preferring to rely on their own military superiority. The Altarians were even more unusual. Their scientific community typically shared information freely rather than making demands. "It seems word of your successful integration has spread faster than we anticipated," Captain Martinez explained. "The diplomatic channels are already buzzing with requests for technology transfer agreements." Admiral Chen leaned forward, her expression growing more serious. "Alina, I need you to tell me exactly what happened in that maintenance bay. Leave nothing out." Alina recounted the integration process in detail, describing the unexpected ease with which she had adapted to the suit systems. As she spoke, she watched Admiral Chen's expression grow increasingly thoughtful. "You mentioned that the suit seemed to be anticipating your intentions," the Admiral noted. "That suggests a level of AI sophistication beyond what the Cathurians typically share with outside species." "Yes, ma'am. It felt less like operating a machine and more like partnering with another consciousness." Admiral Chen exchanged a meaningful look with Captain Martinez. "Commander, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. The Cathurian government contacted Confederation Command 6 months ago with a specific request. They wanted to test their latest exosuit prototype, but they insisted the test subject must be human." Alina felt a chill run down her spine. "They specifically requested a human operator." "Not just any human," Captain Martinez added. "They requested you specifically, Alina, by name." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Alina had never had direct contact with the Cathurian government. Her military record was exemplary, but she was hardly the most senior or experienced officer in the Confederation. There was no logical reason for an alien species to know her name, much less specifically request her for a sensitive technology test. "That's impossible," Alina said finally. "I've never been involved in any operations that would bring me to their attention." Admiral Chen's image flickered as she consulted information outside the camera's range. "Actually, Commander, you have. 3 years ago, you led the rescue mission to the research station at Proxima 7. Do you remember the civilian scientists you evacuated?" Alina nodded slowly. The mission had been routine by military standards. A terrorist attack had damaged the station's life support systems, and she had led a small team to evacuate personnel before the facility became uninhabitable. Of course, but those were human researchers. No aliens were involved. That's what we thought at the time, Admiral Chen continued. But recent intelligence suggests that one of those human scientists was actually a Cathurian operative using advanced biological camouflage. You saved their agent's life, Alina. The revelation hit Alina like a physical blow. She had unknowingly rescued an alien spy, and now that same species was offering her access to their most advanced military technology. The coincidence was too convenient to be accidental. You think this is some kind of payment? Alina asked. Gratitude for saving their operative. Or something more complex, Captain Martinez interjected. The Cathurians don't think the way humans do. Their social structures are based on concepts we barely understand. What we interpret as gratitude might be something entirely different in their culture. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. Which brings me to the real reason for this communication. Confederation Command wants you to continue testing the exosuit, but under enhanced security protocols. We need to understand what the Cathurians really want before this situation spirals out of control. Enhanced security protocols? Alina asked. The Asterisk Dominion is being reassigned to the Kepler station for extended trials, Captain Martinez explained. The station has facilities specifically designed for testing alien technology safely. More importantly, it's far enough from major population centers that if something goes wrong. Alina understood the implication. If the Cathurian technology proved to be some kind of elaborate trap, the damage would be contained to a single remote research station rather than affecting inhabited worlds. There's something else, Admiral Chen added. Our xenopsychology department has been analyzing Cathurian behavior patterns, trying to understand their motivations. Dr. Williams believes they might be testing human adaptability for reasons that go far beyond simple technology sharing. What kind of reasons? Admiral Chen hesitated before answering. Alina, the Cathurians have been monitoring human expansion into space for decades. They've seen how quickly we've adapted to technologies that took other species centuries to develop. Dr. Williams thinks they might be evaluating whether humans could serve as effective partners in some kind of larger conflict. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years, barely long enough to establish diplomatic relations with the major species. The possibility that they were already being considered as potential military allies suggested threats that Alina couldn't even begin to imagine. What kind of conflict would require Cathurian-level technology? Alina asked. That's what we need to find out, Admiral Chen replied. Intelligence reports suggest increased military activity in several sectors. Ships moving to unusual positions, ancient defense networks coming online, diplomatic communications that don't match normal patterns. Captain Martinez pulled up a star chart showing the local region of space. Alina, take a look at this. Over the past 6 months, we've detected unusual energy signatures from systems near Cathurian space. Whatever they're preparing for, it's big. Alina studied the display, noting the pattern of activity. The energy signatures formed a rough perimeter around a section of space that included several inhabited systems, including some with significant human populations. They're creating a defensive perimeter, she realized. But defending against what? That's the question that has everyone worried, Admiral Chen admitted. The Cathurians are one of the most advanced species in known space. If they're preparing for a major conflict, it suggests a threat level that could endanger the entire Confederation. Alina felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Her successful integration with the Cathurian exo-suit wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It might be humanity's entry ticket to a war they didn't even know was coming. Admiral, what are my orders? Continue testing the exo-suit, but with maximum caution, Admiral Chen replied. Learn everything you can about its capabilities, but more importantly, try to understand what the Cathurians really want from this arrangement. Dr. Williams will be joining you at Kepler Station to assist with xenopsychological analysis. And if I discover that this whole situation is some kind of trap? Admiral Chen's expression hardened. Then you activate the station's emergency protocols and ensure that Cathurian technology never falls into the wrong hands, even if that means destroying it entirely. The communication link closed, leaving Alina alone with Captain Martinez on the bridge. Through the main view screen, she could see Kepler Station growing larger as they approached, a massive structure built into an asteroid, its surface bristling with research facilities and defensive installations. "Elena," Captain Martinez said quietly, "I want you to know that whatever happens next, you have my full support. The crew believes in you." "Thank you, Captain. That means more than you know." Elena left the bridge and returned to her quarters, needing time to process everything she had learned. The small space felt cramped after her experience in the exo-suit, another reminder of how the alien technology was already changing her perceptions. She sat at her desk and activated her personal terminal, pulling up her service record. The Proxima 7 mission was listed as a routine evacuation with 14 civilian lives saved. Nothing in the official report suggested anything unusual about the rescued personnel. But now Alina found herself wondering about the scientists she had pulled from that damaged station. One of them had been a Cathurian spy, someone skilled enough to pass for human among trained researchers. They had studied her during those critical hours, evaluating her leadership style, her decision-making process, her willingness to risk her own life for others. She remembered one scientist in particular, Dr. Sarah Kim, a biologist studying extremophile organisms. The woman had seemed genuinely grateful for the rescue, but there had been something unusual about her demeanor. She had asked detailed questions about human military protocols, claiming professional curiosity about how different species approached crisis management. Alina pulled up the passenger manifest from that mission, noting that Dr. Kim had transferred to another research facility shortly after the evacuation. Official records showed her continuing xenobiology work in a remote system near Cathurian space. The pieces were starting to fit together, but the picture they created was troubling. The Cathurians had been studying human behavior and capabilities for years, using Alina's own rescue mission as a testing ground. Now they were offering her access to their most advanced technology, but was it really an offer or something else entirely? Alina's terminal chimed with an incoming message from Dr. Chen in the maintenance bay. The preliminary analysis of her integration with the exo-suit was complete, and the results were even more surprising than expected. According to the data, the suit hadn't just adapted to Alina's neural patterns, it had actually learned from them. The machine's artificial intelligence was now carrying traces of human thought processes, making it fundamentally different from its original Cathurian programming. This revelation added another layer to an already complex situation. Alina wasn't just operating alien technology, she was changing it, creating something that was neither purely human nor purely Cathurian. As the Asterisk Dominion docked with Kepler Station, Alina realized she was about to become the focal point of events that could reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. Whether that change would be for better or worse remained to be seen. What she didn't know was that her successful integration with the exo-suit had triggered automatic signals to hidden facilities throughout Confederation space. Ancient monitoring systems, dormant for centuries, were coming online. And in the depths of space, something that had been waiting patiently for the right moment was finally beginning to move. Alina Vasquez had become humanity's representative in a game whose rules she didn't understand, played by beings whose motivations remained hidden. The only thing she knew for certain was that there could be no turning back from whatever came next. Kepler Station's main laboratory complex sprawled across 3 levels of the hollowed-out asteroid, its corridors humming with the constant activity of researchers from a dozen different species. Alina walked beside Dr. Williams, the xenopsychologist Admiral Chen had mentioned, as they made their way to the secure testing facility where the Cathurian exo-suit had been relocated. Dr. Williams was younger than Alina had expected, perhaps 35, with the intense focus of someone who had spent years studying the alien mind. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her eyes held the kind of alertness that came from constantly analyzing behavior patterns that most people took for granted. "The Cathurians are fascinating from a psychological perspective," Dr. Williams explained as they passed through another security checkpoint. "Their society is built around concepts of debt and obligation that span generations. When they perceive an obligation, they feel compelled to balance it, but their definition of balance rarely matches other species' expectations." Alina nodded, still processing the revelation that she had unknowingly rescued a Cathurian operative 3 years ago. So you think their offer of the exosuit technology is payment for that rescue? Possibly, but I suspect it's more complex than simple gratitude. Dr. Williams paused at a junction in the corridor, consulting the station map displayed on a nearby panel. The Cathurians don't give gifts, they create partnerships. By offering you access to their technology, they might be establishing a relationship that they expect will continue indefinitely. The implications made Alina uncomfortable. Humanity was still learning to navigate galactic politics, and the idea of being locked into a long-term obligation with one of the most powerful species in known space carried significant risks. They entered the secure testing facility to find it bustling with activity. Scientists and technicians from multiple species worked side by side, their different physiologies and methodologies creating a controlled chaos that somehow produced remarkable results. Alina spotted Chief Raxton overseeing the installation of additional monitoring equipment, while Dr. Chen calibrated sensors around the exosuit's storage alcove. "Commander Vasquez," called out Dr. Chen as she noticed their arrival. "Perfect timing. We've finished installing the enhanced monitoring systems. The next integration test should give us far more detailed data about how the suit interfaces with human neural patterns." Alina studied the additional equipment surrounding the exosuit. Banks of sensors and recording devices had been positioned to capture every aspect of the integration process, from brainwave patterns to molecular-level changes in the suit's biometallic components. "Any concerns about the additional monitoring affecting the suit's performance?" Alina asked. Chief Raxton looked up from his work, his 4 arms still making adjustments to a particularly complex sensor array. "Minimal impact expected, Commander. The Cathurian technology is remarkably resilient to electromagnetic interference, though I must admit, some of the suit's capabilities still defy explanation." "What do you mean?" "Show her the power source analysis," Dr. Chen suggested, pulling up a holographic display that materialized above the central workstation. Alina examined the 3-dimensional representation of the exosuit's internal systems. At its core sat something that looked nothing like conventional technology, a pulsing, organic mass that seemed to exist in a state of controlled nuclear fusion. "That's not a reactor," Alina observed. "It's more like a living organ." "Exactly," Chief Raxton confirmed. "The Cathurians have created a biological power source that actually grows more efficient when bonded with a compatible consciousness. During your first integration, we recorded power output increases of nearly 30%. Dr. Williams stepped closer to examine the display, her expression thoughtful. "This supports my theory about Cathurian intentions. They've created technology that literally bonds with the operator on a biological level. Alina, when you wear this suit, you're not just controlling it. You're becoming part of a hybrid organism." The idea was both exhilarating and unsettling. Alina had felt the deep connection during her first test, but she hadn't realized the integration was actually changing her biology, even temporarily. "Dr. Williams, what are the long-term implications of repeated integrations?" Alina asked. "That's what we're here to find out," Dr. Williams replied. "But based on Cathurian biology, I suspect the bond becomes stronger and more permanent with each use. Eventually, the operator and the suit might become inseparable." Alina felt a chill despite the laboratory's controlled temperature. "Inseparable how?" "We don't know yet," Dr. Chen admitted. "But the bioreadings from your first test showed cellular changes that lasted for several hours after disengagement. Nothing harmful, but definitely measurable adaptations to interface with alien technology." Before Alina could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as the station's automated systems detected an approaching vessel that hadn't been scheduled for arrival. "Unidentified ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel," announced the station's communication system. "Configuration unknown, all personnel to emergency stations." Through the laboratory's observation windows, Alina could see the main docking bay as station personnel scrambled to respond to the unexpected arrival. The approaching vessel was unlike anything she had ever seen, sleek and organic, its surface rippling with the same biometallic patterns that covered the Cathurian exosuit. "That's a Cathurian ship," Dr. Williams breathed, her face pale with excitement and concern. But they're not supposed to have any vessels in this sector. Chief Raxton's multiple arms flew across control panels as he accessed the station's sensor networks. Ship is definitely of Cathurian origin, but the configuration is military rather than diplomatic. Length approximately 2 kilometers, powered by exotic matter reactors, and carrying enough firepower to destroy this entire station. Elena felt her heart racing as she realized the implications. A heavily armed Cathurian warship arriving unannounced just as she was preparing for advanced testing of their technology was too coincidental to be accidental. "Dr. Williams, is this normal behavior for the Cathurians?" Elena asked. "Absolutely not," Dr. Williams replied, her voice tight with worry. "The Cathurians are obsessive about diplomatic protocols. They wouldn't send a military vessel without extensive prior coordination unless—" "Unless what?" "Unless they considered this a crisis situation." The laboratory's communication system activated, carrying the voice of Station Commander Harrison. "All research personnel maintain current positions. We are receiving a priority diplomatic transmission from the approaching Cathurian vessel." Elena watched through the observation windows as the massive alien ship maneuvered toward the station with fluid grace. Its biometallic hull pulsed with internal energy patterns that reminded her strongly of the exosuit's appearance during integration. "The ship is trying to establish a direct communication link with this facility," Chief Raxton announced, his multiple arms working to process the incoming signal. "The transmission is specifically requesting contact with Commander Elena Vasquez." Elena felt her blood turn cold. A Cathurian warship had traveled across space to speak with her personally, arriving just as she was about to begin advanced testing of their technology. The coincidence was impossible to ignore. "Put the transmission through," Elena ordered, moving to stand before the laboratory's main communication array. The air above the central workstation shimmered, then resolved into the image of a being that was clearly not human despite its generally humanoid appearance. The Cathurian representative stood nearly 8 feet tall, its elongated limbs covered in the same biometallic material that formed its technology. Most unsettling were its eyes, completely black orbs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Commander Elena Vasquez," the being spoke, its voice carrying harmonics that suggested multiple vocal cords working in coordination. "I am Negotiator Prime Zenth of the Cathurian Military Council. We must speak." Elena straightened her shoulders, drawing on years of military training to maintain her composure in the face of this unprecedented situation. "Negotiator Prime, I am available to hear your concerns." "The concerns are not mine alone, Commander. You have successfully integrated with technology that was designed for very specific purposes. That integration has activated monitoring systems throughout this region of space." Dr. Williams stepped forward slightly, her xenopsychological training making her valuable for this first contact situation. "Negotiator Prime, could you clarify what kind of monitoring systems?" The Cathurian's black eyes fixed on Dr. Williams with uncomfortable intensity. "Ancient defensive networks, dormant for millennia, now responding to the presence of a compatible consciousness. Commander Vasquez's successful integration has sent signals across hundreds of light years, announcing that the prophecy of confluence is beginning to fulfill itself." Elena felt her mouth go dry. Prophecy of confluence. An ancient prediction among our people, speaking of a time when consciousness from beyond our species would successfully merge with our highest technology. Such a merging would herald the return of the devourers from the spaces between stars. The laboratory fell completely silent as everyone present tried to process this revelation. Elena had thought she was simply testing advanced military equipment, but apparently she had inadvertently activated some kind of ancient warning system. "Negotiator Prime," Elena said carefully, "are you saying that my use of the exosuit has somehow triggered the return of this threat you call the Devourers?" "Not triggered their return, Commander. Announced their ability to return. The Devourers have been waiting in dimensional spaces adjacent to our reality for the proper conditions to emerge. The successful integration of Cathurian technology with non-Cathurian consciousness creates a beacon they can follow back to our dimensional plane." Chief Raxton's secondary arms were flying across his instruments, recording every word of this conversation while simultaneously analyzing the Cathurian ship's energy patterns. Negotiator Prime, if I may ask, why was this information not shared when the technology was offered for testing? The Cathurian turned its attention to Chief Raxton, and Alina could see the being's biometallic skin shifting color slightly, possibly an indicator of emotional state. Because we believe the probability of successful integration to be negligible. Non-Cathurian consciousness has never achieved more than basic compatibility with our technology. We did not anticipate that human neural architecture would prove so adaptable. Alina realized she was at the center of a situation that had spiraled far beyond anyone's control. Her successful use of the exosuit hadn't just impressed alien observers. It had accidentally activated ancient warning systems and potentially opened a pathway for hostile entities to enter their reality. What exactly are these devourers? Dr. Williams asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her obvious anxiety. Entities that consume consciousness itself, Negotiator Prime replied. Billions of years ago, they swept through this galaxy, absorbing the mental energy of every sentient species they encountered. The surviving civilizations managed to drive them into dimensional exile, but at enormous cost. Alina felt the weight of galactic history pressing down on her. The successful integration that had seemed like such a triumph was apparently the first step toward unleashing an ancient threat that could destroy every conscious being in known space. Is there a way to reverse what has already happened? Alina asked. The Cathurian's expression was difficult to read, but its posture suggested uncertainty. Unknown, Commander. The ancient records speak of the Devourer's return as inevitable once the confluence begins. However, they also speak of the possibility that the consciousness capable of achieving perfect integration might also be capable of wielding our technology against the threat. Alina understood what the Cathurian was suggesting. She wasn't just the cause of this crisis. She might also be the key to resolving it. The same neural adaptability that had activated the ancient warning systems might be necessary to operate weapons powerful enough to fight the returning threat. How long do we have? Alina asked. Unknown, Negotiator Prime admitted. The dimensional barriers are complex, and the Devourer's emergence may take cycles to complete. But, Commander, time is not our ally in this matter. Alina looked around the laboratory at the faces of her colleagues, human, Centaurian, and others, all united in their shared concern for what was coming. She realized that the next few decisions she made might determine the fate of every conscious being in the galaxy. Negotiator Prime, I need to understand exactly what you're proposing. The Cathurian's response came after what seemed like an eternity of silent consideration. Alina could see the biometallic patterns beneath Negotiator Prime Zenth's skin shifting through complex configurations, suggesting internal communication with systems aboard the massive warship. Commander Vasquez, what we propose will require unprecedented cooperation between our species, the Cathurian finally spoke. The ancient records describe weapons systems that require perfect integration between Cathurian technology and non-Cathurian consciousness. You have demonstrated the capacity for such integration. Alina felt her heart racing as she realized the implications. You want me to bond permanently with your technology. Not permanently in the sense you understand, Negotiator Prime clarified, but deeply enough that the distinction between your consciousness and our systems becomes meaningless. The weapons that can destroy the Devourers require an operator who can think in ways that pure Cathurian consciousness cannot achieve. Dr. Williams stepped forward, her xenopsychological training making her invaluable for this unprecedented first contact situation. Negotiator Prime, could you explain why Cathurian consciousness alone cannot operate these weapons? The alien's dark eyes fixed on Dr. Williams with uncomfortable intensity. The Devourers feed on ordered thought patterns, on consciousness that follows predictable neural pathways. Cathurian minds, like most sentient species, evolve to think logically and efficiently, but such thinking becomes food for the entities we face. Alina began to understand. You need chaotic thinking, unpredictable neural patterns that the Devourers can't easily absorb. Precisely, Commander. Human consciousness exhibits a degree of neural chaos that other species find disturbing, but which may prove essential in this conflict. Your species' tendency towards seemingly irrational creativity and emotional decision-making could be the key to victory. Chief Raxton looked up from his monitoring equipment, his 4 arms continuing to track the conversation while analyzing the Cathurian ship's energy signatures. Negotiator Prime, are there other humans who have shown compatibility with your technology? None have been tested, the Cathurian replied. The exosuit was designed specifically for Commander Vasquez based on neural pattern analysis from her rescue of our operative 3 years ago. Creating similar suits for other humans would require extensive biological data that we do not possess. Elena felt a chill as she realized the full scope of her situation. She wasn't just one of many potential operators. She might be the only human capable of using Cathurian technology against the returning threat. How much time would this integration process require? Elena asked. Negotiator Prime's biometallic skin shifted to a deeper silver color, possibly indicating concern or uncertainty. The records speak of a process requiring several cycles of integration, each deeper than the last. Eventually, the operator becomes capable of directly interfacing with our most powerful weapon systems, planet-scale defensive arrays and stellar core energy manipulators. Dr. Chen had been quietly analyzing data throughout the conversation, and now she stepped forward with obvious worry. Elena, I've been monitoring your biological responses to this conversation. Your stress indicators are elevated, but more concerning is that the cellular changes from your first integration with the exosuit are becoming more pronounced. Elena looked at her hands, noticing for the first time that her skin seemed slightly more reflective than normal, almost as if metallic particles were suspended beneath the surface. The bonding process has already begun, Dr. Williams observed. Elena, your body is adapting to interface with Cathurian technology even when you're not actively wearing the suit. Elena felt a mixture of fascination and fear as she realized her biology was changing in real time. The implications were staggering. She was becoming something that was neither purely human nor purely alien. Negotiator Prime, Elena said, forcing herself to maintain a steady voice. I need to understand the risks. What happens to my humanity if I agree to this deeper integration? The Cathurian was quiet for several moments before responding. Unknown, Commander. The ancient records speak of consciousness that transcends individual species' identity, but the specific details were lost when our predecessors destroyed themselves fighting the Devourers. You would be entering unexplored territory. Elena looked around the laboratory at the faces of her colleagues, scientists and researchers who had dedicated their lives to pushing the boundaries of knowledge. She saw fear in their expressions, but also hope and determination. There's something else we need to consider, Dr. Williams interjected. If Elena undergoes this transformation, she becomes humanity's only defense against a threat that could destroy all conscious life. That's an enormous responsibility for any individual to bear. It's also an enormous risk for our species, Chief Raxton added. If the integration process goes wrong, we lose our only potential weapon against the Devourers. Elena felt the weight of decision pressing down on her. Everything she had worked for, everything she was, might be sacrificed to give the galaxy a chance at survival. But the alternative, doing nothing while an ancient evil returned to consume all conscious life, was unthinkable. Negotiator Prime, I need to speak with my superiors before making this decision, Elena said finally. This affects not just me, but all of humanity. Time is a factor, Commander, the Cathurian warned. Our monitoring systems indicate increasing dimensional instability in sectors where the Devourers are attempting to emerge. We estimate perhaps 60 of your days before they achieve sufficient presence to begin feeding operations. The communication channel closed, leaving the laboratory in tense silence. Elena realized that everyone present was looking at her, waiting for her to process the magnitude of what they had just learned. Dr. Chen, I need you to compile all data from my integration with the exosuit and forward it to Confederation Command immediately, Elena ordered. They need to understand the full scope of this situation. Already in progress, Elena, but I have to tell you, some of the biological changes we've recorded are irreversible. Even if you decide not to proceed with deeper integration, you're no longer entirely human. Elena examined her hands again, noting that the metallic sheen was becoming more pronounced. Her fingernails had taken on a silver tinge, and when she concentrated, she could almost sense electromagnetic fields in the laboratory equipment around her. The transformation is accelerating, Dr. Williams observed. Elena, proximity to the Cathurian ship seems to be triggering more rapid changes. Your cellular structure is adapting to function more efficiently with their technology. Elena walked to the observation window and looked out at the massive Cathurian warship. Its biometallic hull pulsed with patterns that seemed almost familiar, as if she was beginning to understand some kind of visual language she had never encountered before. "I can see the ship's power distribution," Elena said quietly. "I shouldn't be able to perceive that from this distance, but I can sense the energy flows throughout its hull." Chief Raxton's instruments confirmed her observation. "Commander, the ship is broadcasting complex electromagnetic patterns that shouldn't be detectable by human senses. Your enhanced perception is definitely related to the biological changes." Elena turned back to her colleagues, seeing their worried faces with enhanced clarity that revealed subtle details she had never noticed before. Dr. Williams's elevated heart rate was visible in the tiny color variations in her skin. Chief Raxton's bioelectromagnetic field was clearly perceivable as a faint aura around his body. "The changes aren't just cosmetic," Elena realized. "I'm developing enhanced sensory capabilities," which supports the Cathurian claim that you're becoming capable of operating their advanced technology, Dr. Williams noted. "But Elena, we have no way of knowing where this transformation leads or whether it can be controlled." Elena's personal communicator chimed with an incoming priority message from Admiral Chen. The transmission was brief but carried enormous weight. "Commander Vasquez, report to secure communications immediately. Presidential authorization required for next phase of operations." Elena understood the implications. The decision about her continued transformation would be made at the highest levels of human government, but she was the one who would have to live with, or die from, the consequences. "I need to make that call," Elena said. "Dr. Chen, continue monitoring my biological changes. Dr. Williams, I want a complete analysis of Cathurian psychology and their historical records about these devourers. Chief Raxton, see what you can learn about their ship's capabilities." Elena left the laboratory and made her way to the station's secure communication center, passing through corridors that seemed somehow different than they had just hours earlier. Her enhanced senses were picking up electromagnetic patterns from the station systems, creating a constant background awareness of the facility's technological infrastructure. The Secure Communication Center was a small, shielded chamber designed to prevent eavesdropping on sensitive conversations. Elena activated the quantum encryption protocols and established contact with Earth's highest levels of government. President Martinez appeared on the display, a woman who had led humanity through the challenges of joining the galactic community, and who now faced the possibility of their species playing a crucial role in a conflict that predated human civilization. "Commander Vasquez," the president began without preamble, "I've been briefed on the situation by Admiral Chen. The implications are staggering." "Yes, Madam President. The Cathurians are requesting that I undergo a transformation that could make me capable of operating weapons powerful enough to fight this ancient threat." President Martinez leaned forward, her expression grave. "Elena, I need you to understand something. Our xenobiology specialists have reviewed the data from your integration tests. The biological changes you're experiencing aren't just adaptation. They represent evolution in real time. You're becoming something new." Elena felt her enhanced senses detecting stress patterns in the president's voice, subtle indicators that her transformed biology made apparent. "I'm aware that the changes might be permanent, Madam President." "It's more than that," the president continued. "Our specialists believe that if you undergo the deeper integration the Cathurians are describing, you might represent the emergence of a new form of human consciousness. Not just an individual with enhanced capabilities, but potentially the first member of a new species." The revelation hit Elena like a physical blow. She had thought she was making a personal sacrifice to help defend the galaxy, but apparently she was considering voluntary evolution into something that might no longer be recognizably human. "Madam President, what are your orders?" President Martinez was quiet for a long moment before responding. "Elena, this decision has to be yours. No government has the right to order someone to sacrifice their humanity for the greater good. But I will say this. If you choose to proceed, you'll have the full support of Earth and every human in the galaxy." Elena understood the subtext. Humanity's leadership believed the transformation was necessary, but they couldn't officially order her to sacrifice her species' identity for political and ethical reasons. "I'll give you my decision within 12 hours, Elena said. "Elena," the president added, "whatever you decide, you should know that you've already made humanity proud. Your courage in facing this situation has impressed even our most skeptical alien allies." The communication ended, leaving Elena alone with the most important decision in human history. Through the communication center's small observation port, she could see the Cathurian warship waiting patiently for her choice. A choice that would determine not just her own fate, but potentially the survival of all conscious life in the galaxy. Elena returned to her quarters aboard the Dominion Asterisk, needing solitude to process the magnitude of the decision before her. The small cabin that had once felt comfortable now seemed different. Her enhanced senses picked up electromagnetic patterns from every piece of equipment, creating a constant background awareness of the ship's technological systems that she had never experienced before. She sat at her desk and activated her personal terminal, pulling up her service record one more time. The woman who had joined the Confederation Navy 5 years ago seemed like a different person now, someone who had believed that courage and determination were enough to overcome any challenge. Now she faced a choice that would either save the galaxy or transform her into something that might no longer be recognizably human. Elena's reflection was interrupted by a soft knock at her cabin door. "Come in," she called. Dr. Williams entered, carrying a data pad and wearing an expression of mixed concern and fascination. "Elena, I wanted to share some findings from my analysis of Cathurian historical records before you make your final decision." Elena gestured for the xenopsychologist to take a seat. "What did you discover?" "The records about the Devourers are fragmentary, but they paint a disturbing picture," Dr. Williams began, activating her data pad to display holographic representations of ancient text. "The entities don't just consume consciousness, they reshape it. Beings that survive contact with the Devourers become something else, losing their individual identity while serving as extensions of a collective hunger." Elena studied the translated records, nodding symbols and concepts that seemed familiar despite their alien origin. Her enhanced perception was apparently making it easier to understand non-human information patterns. "The interesting part is what the records say about the weapons that eventually drove the Devourers away," Dr. Williams continued. "They weren't conventional military technology. They were consciousness-based systems that required operators capable of maintaining individual identity while interfacing directly with reality-warping equipment." "Operators like what I might become," Elena observed. "Exactly. But Elena, there's something else. The records suggest that the consciousness capable of operating these weapons doesn't just fight the Devourers. It also serves as a template for rebuilding civilization after the conflict ends. The operator becomes a bridge between the old reality and whatever emerges from the war." Elena felt her enhanced senses detecting subtle emotional patterns in Dr. Williams's voice. Hope mixed with fear, excitement tempered by genuine concern for Elena's well-being. "Dr. Williams, are you saying that agreeing to this transformation means taking responsibility for shaping whatever comes after the war?" "I'm saying that according to these records, the operator of reality-warping weapons inevitably influences the fundamental nature of consciousness itself throughout their operational range. Elena, if you use these weapons, you might not just save existing civilizations, you might define what consciousness becomes for future generations." The implications were staggering. Elena had thought she was choosing between personal sacrifice and galactic survival, but apparently the choice was far more complex. She might be deciding the future nature of consciousness itself. Elena's personal communicator activated, carrying a message from Chief Raxton. "Commander Vasquez, please report to the maintenance bay immediately. We're detecting unusual activity from the exo-suit." Elena and Dr. Williams made their way through the ship's corridors, noting increased activity among the crew. Word of the Cathurian revelation had spread, and everyone understood that humanity was facing its greatest challenge since joining the galactic community. They entered the maintenance bay to find Chief Raxton and Dr. Chen monitoring the exosuit with obvious concern. The alien technology was pulsing with internal light patterns that hadn't been present during previous observations. "The suit has been active for the past 20 minutes, Dr. Chen reported. It's drawing power from sources we can't identify and broadcasting complex electromagnetic signals toward the Cathurian ship. Elena approached the suit, feeling a strange pull that seemed to originate from somewhere deeper than conscious thought. Her enhanced senses detected patterns in the suit's energy flows that were somehow familiar, as if she was remembering rather than learning. It's responding to my presence, Elena realized. The suit is anticipating deeper integration. Chief Raxton's instruments confirmed her observation. Commander, the suit's biological components are showing increased activity whenever you move closer. It's almost as if the machine is eager for you to wear it again. Elena reached out tentatively to touch the suit's surface, feeling a subtle vibration that seemed to resonate with her own cellular structure. The biometallic material was warm to her touch, almost like living skin. Elena, Dr. Williams said quietly, the suit isn't just technology, it's become part of a living system that includes you. The bonding process is continuing even when you're not actively wearing it. Elena pulled her hand back from the suit, noting that her skin now carried the same faint luminescence as the alien technology. The transformation was accelerating, driven by proximity to both the exo-suit and the massive Cathurian warship. Dr. Chen, what do your projections show about the timeline for complete biological transformation? Dr. Chen consulted her instruments with obvious reluctance to share the results. Elena, at the current rate of change, you'll lose the ability to survive without technological support within 48 hours. Your biology is adapting so rapidly to interface with Cathurian systems that normal human physiology may no longer be viable. Elena felt a chill despite the maintenance bay's controlled temperature. The choice was being taken away from her. Either she accepted the transformation voluntarily, or her changing biology would force it upon her anyway. There's something else, Chief Raxton added, his multiple arms working to process data from the station's long-range sensors. We're detecting dimensional anomalies in 17 different star systems. The barriers between realities are weakening faster than the Cathurian predicted. Elena understood the implication. The Devourers were finding ways to accelerate their emergence, possibly in response to the activation of ancient monitoring systems triggered by her integration with the exo-suit. How long do we have? Elena asked. Perhaps 20 days before the first dimensional breaches become large enough for major incursions, Chief Raxton replied. After that, the cascade effect will spread throughout this region of space. Elena looked around the maintenance bay at the faces of her colleagues, beings from multiple species united in their concern for the approaching crisis. She realized that her individual choice had become a decision that would affect every conscious entity in the galaxy. Dr. Williams, based on your analysis of Cathurian psychology, what happens if I refuse the transformation? Dr. Williams's expression showed her reluctance to answer the question. Elena, the Cathurians are practical beings. If you can't operate their weapons, they'll likely attempt to evacuate their population to another galaxy and leave the rest of us to face the Devourers alone. Elena felt her enhanced senses detecting electromagnetic patterns from throughout the station. Thousands of sentient beings going about their research and daily lives, unaware that their existence might depend on her willingness to sacrifice her humanity. And if I agree, then you become humanity's representative in a conflict that will reshape the nature of consciousness itself. But Elena, you also become something that has never existed before, a hybrid consciousness capable of thought patterns that transcend individual species limitations. Elena moved closer to the exosuit, feeling its biometallic components responding to her presence with increased activity. The alien technology seemed almost eager for deeper connection, as if it had been waiting for exactly this moment. Chief Raxton, what kind of weapons are we talking about? What exactly would I be operating? Chief Raxton accessed the limited technical specifications the Cathurians had provided, displaying holographic representations that defied easy comprehension. The primary systems appear to be reality manipulation devices that can alter the fundamental properties of space-time within their operational range. Elena, these weapons don't just destroy enemies. They reshape the laws of physics to make certain forms of existence impossible. Elena studied the displays, noting that her enhanced perception was making the alien technology concepts easier to understand. She was beginning to grasp the basic principles of reality manipulation, though the full implications remained staggering. The weapons can create zones where consciousness-feeding entities cannot survive, Dr. Williams added. But operating them requires a mind capable of maintaining coherent thought while directly manipulating the fundamental forces that govern reality. Alina realized she was facing the ultimate test of human adaptability. Her species had survived and thrived by adapting to new challenges, but this situation required adaptation beyond anything previously imagined. "I need to contact the Cathurian ship," Alina said finally. "Negotiator Prime needs to understand my terms if I agree to this transformation." The communication link with the Cathurian warship was established within minutes. Negotiator Prime Zenth appeared on the holographic display, its biometallic features showing patterns that Alina was beginning to recognize as indicators of emotional state. "Commander Vasquez," the Cathurian spoke, "our sensors indicate your biological transformation is accelerating. Time grows short for voluntary decision-making." "Negotiator Prime, I'm prepared to accept the deeper integration, but I have conditions," Alina replied, drawing on her military training to negotiate from a position of strength despite her vulnerable situation. "State your conditions, Commander." "First, I want complete access to all Cathurian records about the Devourers and the reality manipulation weapons. No information can be withheld if I'm going to operate this technology effectively." The Cathurian considered this for several moments. "Acceptable. Our survival depends on your success." "Second, Dr. Williams and Chief Raxton will serve as my advisors throughout the integration process. I need perspectives from other species to maintain some connection to my original identity." "Also acceptable." Alina took a deep breath before stating her final condition. "If I survive this conflict and the Devourers are defeated, I want the Cathurian government to share reality manipulation technology with all Confederation species. No single race should control weapons capable of reshaping consciousness itself." Negotiator Prime's biometallic skin shifted through complex color patterns, suggesting intense internal debate or communication with unseen advisors. Finally, the Cathurian responded. "Your final condition is unprecedented, but given the circumstances, we agree. Commander Vasquez, prepare yourself for transformation that will make you capable of thoughts no individual consciousness has ever achieved." Alina turned to her colleagues, seeing support and admiration in their expressions despite their obvious fear for her safety. "Dr. Chen, initiate the final integration sequence. Let's find out what humanity can become when pushed beyond all previous limits." Alina stepped into the exosuit's interior, feeling the biometallic lining conform to her body with unprecedented precision. This time, the integration felt different, deeper, and more complete than before. Instead of simply controlling the technology, she felt herself becoming part of it. Her consciousness expanded exponentially, encompassing not just the suit systems, but also connections to monitoring networks throughout Confederation space. She could perceive the dimensional instabilities where the Devourers were attempting to emerge, sense the fear and determination of billions of conscious beings, and feel the vast potential of technologies that could reshape the fundamental nature of reality itself. Alina Vasquez was gone, but something new had taken her place, a hybrid consciousness that was both human and alien, individual and collective, familiar and utterly unprecedented. The final phase of humanity's greatest test was about to begin.